Well, good afternoon, everybody. We want to welcome you here to our wonderful Upper Dublin Lutheran Church. What a great afternoon we have, man. We've got so much to share and talk about. We're going to start out with a song that Christy's going to bring you with. It's called The River.
I know a place where we can go to lay the troubles down in your soul. I know a place where mercy flows, take the stains, make you whiter than snow. Like a tide, it is rising up deep inside a current that moves and makes it come alive. Living water that brings the dead to life. Whoa, we're going down to the river, down to the river, down to the river to pray. Let's get washed by the water, washed by the water, rise up in amazing grace. Let's go down, down, down to the river. Let's go down, down, down to the river. Never the same. I've seen it move in my own life, took me from dusty roads into paradise. All of my dirt, all of my shame, drowned in the streams that made me born again. Like a tide, it is rising up deep inside a current that moves and makes me come alive. Living water that brings me dead to life. Whoa, we're going down to the river, down to the river, down to the river to pray. Let's get washed by the water, washed by the water, rise up in amazing grace. Let's go down, down, down to the river. You will make change. Let's go down, down, down to the river. Never the same. Let's go down. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's go down. Let's go down. We're going down to the river, down to the river, down to the river to pray. Let's get washed by the water, washed by the water, rise up in amazing grace. Let's go down, down, down to the river. You will change. Let's go down, down, down to the river. Never the same. Whoa, down, whoa, whoa. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go down in amazing grace. To the river. Gotta go down in amazing grace.
Thank you. Now, this next song we're going to sing for you today is a song that our band wrote back in 2007. And you know, we've always had the belief that everybody has a voice, and if we had peace, we so much we could accomplish in the world. If there was peace, hate would be no more. In a world of peace, there would be no war. We would all embrace every faith and every race. What a better place if there was peace. Oh yeah. If there was peace, well there would be no hunger. Open up our fields to our sisters and brothers. If we could pray together, our hearts would be the same. Harmony would lead to the world of peace. So come on, let's do it together. Let's change the world, sisters and brothers, together as one. We could agree to stop the fight. God, He tells us, love one another, and we'll be alright. There was peace, we would find a cure for the sick land, but they would be restored. Pain would be no more, suffering would cease. All would find relief in the world of peace. And this is how we can do it. Lord, by your grace, help us to follow all of your ways. Help us find peace. Lord, by your grace, help us to follow all of your ways. Help us find peace. Let's change the world, sisters and brothers, together as one. If we could agree to stop the fight, God, He tells us, love one another, then we'll be alright. Let's change the world. Come on, put your hands together. Sisters and brothers, together as one. If we could agree to stop the fight, God, He tells us, love one another, then we'll be alright. Let's change the world, sisters and brothers, together as one. If we could agree to stop the fight, God, He tells us, love one another, then we'll be alright. I tell you, we'll be alright. I know it. We'll be alright.
Good afternoon, everyone. So happy to have you all here. I do have one really quick thing to just let you know. There is a gold SUV Mercedes in the parking lot with their flashers on. So I just wanted folks to know if that's your car and you don't intend your flashers to be on, to check that out. And hopefully the folks out there here as well. But that, just wanted to let people know that real quick. Good afternoon. My name's Deborah Jodry, and I am the Director of Faith Formation here at Upper Dublin Lutheran Church. And I'm so honored to be here and to invite you all to this amazing event addressing this important interfaith event and addressing hate and bias in our community. I want to start by offering a huge thank you to Mike Wood, who was playing our prelude on the piano earlier today, and our For the Spirit band, if we can give them a round of applause. We are so lucky to have For the Spirit here with us this afternoon. They play every morning at our 8:30 contemporary worship. They've been together since 1995, and we're just so lucky to have you guys. They got their shirts on and everything, and we are so grateful that they get to bring their uplifting and encouraging music with us here to this event. A little bit about us here at UDLC. We are a church committed to justice and inclusion and building a welcoming community. We host regular LGBTQI+ support groups. We have an amazing DEI and advocacy team that were pivotal in making this event happen here as well. And we're constantly seeking ways through education and relationship building to widen our welcome and care for everyone in our community. And so getting to host an event like this with you all is just one of those ways of us getting to do that all together. We have a full and exciting program ahead of us, so please take a moment to look at the order of events in your program. You'll also find full biographies of our speakers. So I will only be giving brief introductions for each of our speakers, but you can learn more about them in our program. And then we also have a yellow insert right here at the front if you didn't get a chance to get one of those. That just gives us some advocacy opportunities for ways we can take action after this event, along with everything our amazing speakers are going to tell us we need to be doing as well. Lastly, there are index cards in the pews for your questions. We're going to be having a time of Q&A at the end with our amazing speakers. So if you have any questions about the topic at hand or any of the topics that our speakers bring up, please jot down your questions, and some folks in our team will be gathering those towards the end of the service, and we'll get to ask our amazing speakers our burning questions. And also, I just wanted to mention our restrooms are right here through these doors. We have men's and women's restrooms, and then we also have a gender-neutral bathroom further down our education hall. So please make use of those. And then we also, if you haven't already seen, incredible just layout of snacks, refreshments, coffee, please help yourself to those. We're also excited to have amazing organizations here in our tables in the lobby. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check those out beforehand, you should have time at the end to do so as well. Again, welcome. We're so grateful to have you here, and we look forward to a really meaningful time together. To begin, I would like to introduce Reverend Keith Anderson, the pastor here at Upper Dublin Lutheran Church, and we're so grateful for his leadership and dedication to our faith community.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and hot mic. Good afternoon, and on behalf of all the members of our church and our wider Upper Dublin Lutheran Church community, thank you so much for being here today. It's really already an inspiration to see so many people from our community gathered together as neighbors, as people of faith, as those who are committed to addressing hate and bias in our communities. We live in a time when fear and division seem to dominate our civic life, where differences are too often used to separate us rather than unite us. But this afternoon we gather to affirm a different truth, that every person, regardless of background, race, religion, or identity, carries inherent dignity and worth. We're here because we believe that love is stronger than hate, that understanding is more powerful than fear, and that unity is not just possible but necessary. We hold fast to the words of Micah 6:8. He has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, to love kindness, and walk humbly with your God. We're called to seek justice, to show kindness even when it's difficult, to walk with humility, recognizing that none of us has all the answers, but together we can create a more just and compassionate world. Hate and bias thrive in silence and separation. They take root when we fail to listen, when we turn away, when we assume the worst of one another. But today in this space, we choose a different way. We choose to listen with open hearts. We choose to see the divine image in those who may not look, speak, or believe as we do. We choose to stand together, knowing that our collective witness can be a force for healing in our communities. This gathering is a step towards something greater, a world where love is the loudest voice, where justice is not just an afterthought, but a foundation, and where every person is recognized as beloved. May this time together strengthen our resolve, deepen our compassion, and move us to action. Thank you for being here today.
Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Rabbi Sam Cates Goldman, the rabbinic intern at Congregation Or Hadash, who is also one of our co-sponsors, and we're so thankful for your congregation and you for being here. We're grateful for Rabbi Sam and his commitment to interfaith dialogue.
Thank you all for being here. It's gratifying to see so many of us gathered to oppose hate in the community. As Jews, we organize our Torah into 54 sections, and we read one each week. And it has a certain kind of, almost like an oracular quality to it, to see what shows up on a given week. And this week is the portion that opens the book of Leviticus. We call it Vayikra. And the book of Leviticus, of course, has some of the most beautiful verses in the Torah and also some of the most difficult when we think about acceptance and addressing bias in our faith communities. In the Hebrew, Vayikra is the word that means God called. The next word is God called to Moses. That's how the book starts, that's how the verse starts. And we have a story, an old story, about 1,000 years old, that says that when God was speaking the words and Moses is transcribing them, Moses pauses before writing the last letter, Vayikar, in the Hebrew. And Vayikar just means God happened across Moses, like a coincidence or a chance encounter. And that God has to prompt Moses and say, no, it's Vayikra, because I'm calling to you, you personally, not just anyone, but you in particular. And this is seen as Moses' humility. Moses' humility that he has maybe a little ambivalence about being called by God. Wouldn't we all? But humility in Hebrew is also a little bit different than it is in English. It doesn't just mean to make oneself small. It means to sort of step into the task. To have humility in Hebrew is to also make yourself big enough to do the work that your soul is brought here to do. Not just small, but also enough, right-sized, bringing yourself to the work that you are called to. The rabbis wonder, what was Moses' response when God called? What did Moses say? It's not recorded in the text. If God called, what was the response? And they look back to the burning bush, where Moses says in Hebrew, hineni, which means I am here. Isn't that all of our response? God called and I answered, hineni, I am here. These are not the words of a shrinking violet. These are not the words of someone who's afraid. They are the words of someone stepping into a call to responsibility. The answer to a question that still reverberates, am I my brother's keeper? They're right there on his lips. I'm here. The rabbis also point us towards Isaiah's vision, where the angels are calling to each other. They call one to another to say, holy, holy, holy is the God of all hosts who fills the world. When the angels call to each other, we recognize that the call we feel today is not just the call from God, but it's the call from each other. It's the call from one another, a call to step into a role of support, to step into a role of curiosity, to be there with each other, to show up and say, hineni, I'm here. To not shirk the responsibility we have to each other, to approach each other with that curiosity, that sense of wanting to know what it's like to be a different kind of person in this community, what it's like to live in this community with a different experience, to approach each other with that curiosity so as to learn from each other, to support each other, and to protect each other. We too are now called into presence, brought by a desire, the desire to be here together, to assert that our existence here is one of togetherness. We feel the call both from God and from each other to that responsibility, and we step in and say, hineni. You can try saying it with me if you like. Hineni. I am here. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Now we are delighted to have a special musical celebration. Please join me in welcoming Voices Rising Philly, a local activist choir led by David Heitler-Clevens, alongside UDLC's Chancel Choir led by our own music director, Carol Evans.
I keep saying I'm not actually the leader of Voices Rising Philly, but I am David Heitler-Clevens. We're kind of leaderless. So, but it's a real pleasure to be able to do this with the choir. Now, I understood we had the words for this song, but do you have them up? Yay, okay. Oh, you're gonna have to switch them then. Well, that'll be fun for you. Okay, so we encourage you all to join in with us on these songs. We're gonna do them in the other order than they are in the program. Hopefully that won't confuse any of you. So this first one is called Sing Down the Hate. And I wrote this song when our friends who perform as Ants on a Log were doing a performance in Philadelphia for a Pride event for kids. And it happened to be during the National Conference of Moms for Liberty in Philadelphia. And they found out about our friends doing this concert, and they threatened that they were going to come and do something to disrupt it. So I wrote this song to be sung at that event to support them outside. The Moms for Liberty didn't actually really show up. So are you all in your places? Everybody's good? Okay. So we're only going to clap in the first stanza of this. We're going to sing 3 different stanzas in unison, each of them twice so you get a chance to learn them. And then we're going to do the second and third stanzas as a 4-part round. So that means you could join in with any of the entrances of the groups back here. Okay, so it's not as complicated as it sounds. I was about to say it's more complicated than it sounds. All right, ready? We're gonna sing down the hay. We're gonna sing down the hay. We'll surround it with love. It's not too late. We're gonna sing down the hay. Try that again. We're gonna sing down the hay. We're gonna sing down the hay. We'll surround it with love. It's not too late. We're gonna sing down the hay. Pride. We're gonna sing out with pride. We're gonna sing out with pride. We'll be moving on and we won't hide. We're gonna sing out with pride again. We're gonna sing out with pride. We're gonna sing out with pride. We'll be moving on and we won't hide. We're gonna sing out with love. We're gonna sing out with love. We're gonna sing out with love. When life's dragging us down, we'll rise above. We're gonna sing out with love again. We're gonna sing out with love. We're gonna sing out with love. When life's dragging us down, we'll rise above. We're gonna sing out with love. Sing out with love. We've had a total of a half a rehearsal with all these folks. Okay, so the other song is Hatred Has No Place. You won't need the words. Once you hear a little bit of it, you'll all be able to sing it. And I wrote this song right after the events in Charlottesville in 2017, inspired by the lawn signs that were optimistically sprouting up about hate has no home here in different languages. I'm sure lots of you have seen those or have them. And anyway, so it's really, really easy to sing, and we hope you'll join us on it. Hatred has no place in my heart. Hatred has no place in my heart. Hatred has no place. Hatred has no place. Hatred has no place in my heart. In my home. Hatred has no place in my home. Hatred has no place in my home. Hatred has no place. Hatred has no place. Hatred has no place in my home. In my town. Hatred has no place in my town. Hatred has no place in my town. Hatred has no place. Hatred has no place. Hatred has no place in my town. In this land. Hatred has no place in this land. Hatred to heart and let's keep our hands still. Hatred has no place in my heart. Hatred has no place in my heart. Hatred has no place. Hatred has no place. Hatred has no place in my heart. Oh, and I'll just say, Voices Rising Philly is a totally open group, so if any of you like to sing and want to sing at marches and rallies and stuff, my email address is in the program, and you can let me know and I'll put you on the list. We got hundreds of people on the list, but at any given event, usually a couple dozen.
And we hope to see you on April 5th when we'll be sitting in front of Independence Hall as part of the day of protest nationwide next Saturday.
Let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you guys so much. That was amazing. It is now my honor to introduce Pennsylvania State Representative Melissa Serrato. Representative Serrato has been a strong advocate for our community, and we are so honored to have her here with us today.
Thank you all for having me, and more importantly, thank you all for being here. I didn't write a speech. There are not really words to say in the world that we're living right now, when so many are filled with fear and so many are struggling to find out where they can find their hope. I just ask to turn to the person next to you. We have an entire room full of people here that care about their community, that care about the people that are standing next to them, sitting beside them, going to school with them, praying with them, whichever method it takes. Understand that our community is always stronger than hate. The voices can be drowned out. They are not the majority. They're just loud. I don't know if you ever went to grade school or middle school, but it always seems like the bully's the loudest one in the room. But the kids that come and hold your hand when you've been knocked down are so much stronger, so much more powerful. And those are the people that we need to emulate. Those are the people that we need to pull close to us and say, your voice matters. You are the sounds of the community that we want to hear. Just this morning, opening my Facebook, unfortunately, I saw another post about vandalism right in Ambler at a playground. Words that I won't even read aloud. But it's horrifying to know, and it's even worse that a sick individual would think it's appropriate for children to be seeing those words. We have to stand up, we have to use our voices, and we have to fight. Know that as much as I hate politics, and any of you who have ever met me personally know that this is not a world I ever wanted to get into, but I was called upon and asked if I would step up. I had watched for years the things that were going on in Harrisburg and how it was only hurting the people I care about, the family and friends that needed us most. And I said yes, and I stood up against all odds, and I got myself in a position that I can be the voice for my community. But I can't do it alone. I need the community to talk to me. I need you to tell me what you need from us. We can't fix the world, no one person can, and no one person is perfect, but together we are a force to be reckoned with. The Pennsylvania House has moved legislation last session that would do incredible things to protect against hate. We've had bill after bill sponsored by my colleagues, supported by my friends, and we've gotten them across the finish line in the House. Unfortunately, we're stalled in the Senate. We are in a position where we don't have Pennsylvania. We don't have the power to enshrine these protections into law just yet, but we're getting there. And the more and more that we see the people at the top of our country make this more divisive and more hate-filled, the more people turn to us and say, what now? What can I do? How can I step up? And so I encourage each and every one of you not to give up hope, to use your voices to share your feelings with those who are supposed to be protecting you, who are supposed to be ensuring that our most vulnerable in our communities are taken care of every single day. I don't want to get another phone call from a friend worried about getting deported, and would I help take care of their kids? This is such a hard world to be a part of right now, and I apologize. It is overwhelming for the people that we care about to feel targeted every single day. And if you have an ounce of love in your heart, you'll shed a tear for those people. But then you'll wipe the tears and you'll get up and you'll find an action that will make us stronger as a community. Whether it's my Jewish friends who are scared that their kids are going to school and facing bullying and hate, whether it's my LGBTQ plus friends that are worried that they may get attacked on a street corner somewhere, whether it's my immigrant friends who have to worry about the future of their families for simply going to work or a grocery store. These are things that should never happen in our country, in our state, and in our communities. And it's our voices that are going to stop it. We need to use those voices, and together we will make the change for good. We will see a brighter future truly for all. This is a storm that we will worry through, but we will get through it. We will overcome it, and we will be more powerful together in the end. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much for the light that you're giving us all.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now I'm excited to welcome Bishop Brian Penman, who was recently elected as Bishop of the Southeastern Pennsylvania Synod in 2024. And this is for the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. Bishop Penman's leadership in the church reflects his deep commitment to a more inclusive and just society.
So a bishop's color is purple. I'm not going to say that I'm coveting today, but those boots are on fire. Whew. Good afternoon. It is good to be among you here this afternoon. As Deborah said, my name is Bishop Brian Penman, and it is my joy and honor and privilege to serve as the Bishop of the Southeastern Pennsylvania Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And for all of you who are ELCA, you know that we are on the progressive end of the mainline Protestant movement, and sometimes we get caught up in that evangelical in our title. We are euangelion, or gospel proclaimers, which is not in any way connected to the conservative right, which also tries to own that title too. And so I bring you greetings on behalf of the 144 congregations. I'd love to say we're all like this church here at Upper Dublin, but we are a myriad of perspectives when it comes to Lutheranism. And I love to say that we embody that in the depth and breadth of who and what we are. From our worship expression to the people in our pews, we are blessed to be part of a wider church that is struggling right now. And the Lutherans here in the Southeastern Pennsylvania Synod have been organizing the Lutherans in America all the way back to Muhlenberg days in the 1700s. And I like to say that we're kind of leading the way in what that looks like. So thankfully, I am blessed to lead one of the more diverse synods of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. But we, as a mainline denomination, are solidly the whitest denomination of the mainline Protestants. And that does not sit well with me. And it shouldn't sit well with any of us. And so there are certainly initiatives within our denomination that are working on that. There are some who say that it is baked into our theology and who and what we are. And I like to say that it's baked into our institutionalism. And if you've done anything in the church right now, you know the institutional parts of the church are not working for us anymore. The money's not there, the people aren't there, and the institutions are crumbling. That, for me, is a huge opportunity, though, because God does amazing things when things start breaking. God does amazing stuff when stuff starts breaking. And so I give a lot of thanks for the Spirit that continues to move and animate our church right now, that is calling us into this renewing time. And this time when we say, no, we're not going to go down that road anymore. We're going to turn things around and we're going to look at things differently. So for us in our synod, we are embarking on a 5-year journey with some of our congregations through a process that we call the Love Revolution, which is inviting us to think about how we deeply love God and love our neighbors. But at the heart of this process for us is our baptismal covenant, the covenant that we say every time we baptize someone in the faith, and we say that they will live among God's faithful people. They will hear God's word and share in the supper. They will serve in both word and deed, following the example of Jesus. They will strive for justice and peace, and they will proclaim, that's our euangelion, the good news. Y'all, there is 2 narratives happening in our country right now. One of hate, and I think one of love. And if I could speak for all 144 of my congregations, I would like to say that we are the ones telling the story of God's love. And so to invite our people to consider how they do that, Lutherans don't like telling their story. I'm sorry if you're not familiar with the Lutherans are the ones all sitting in the back, probably too. That's another big thing that we do. That and coffee, that's our hallmark. But what I want us to get to know is that we are the ones who are telling a different story. And to invite our people to consider, how has God's love changed your life? And how has that love working in you caused you to care for your neighbors around you? And don't be quiet about that right now. Oh my Lord, please don't be quiet about that right now. Because silence is complicity, and it's deafening to those on the margins of our society. So some of our LGBT bishops, I can at least say that I'm not the only one now. There's 6 of us, and we got together and we did a video saying, "We see you," with our LGBT bishops in the ELCA. It's got 6,000 views. And we all just put it together thinking not much of it, but the fact that we said that we see our trans siblings meant so much because they're being erased from the very fabric of our country. Y'all, God exists in a spectrum of beautiful, colorful, extraordinary extravagance. In fact, so much so that we say that, at least in some of our circles, we say that we are made in the image of God, or imago Dei. DEI. And I'd love to claim credit for it, but it's making its rounds on Facebook. I'm just using it to my advantage. So much so that in the next year or so, and shocker to all my SEPA friends, you're going to hear a lot about Imago Dei because we're rolling out a whole new process in our synod about how we invite people into understanding that we are all made in the image of God. I just hired one of my new staff people who is the assistant to the bishop for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, because the belonging piece is that's the kingdom of God work that we're all working towards. And I asked her back in January before we made it public, I said, I heard what happened the last 2 weeks of January. Are you okay, as an African-American female pastor in this church, having that as part of your title? And Linda we were on Zoom, and so she looked at me and said, "I've been fighting this battle longer than you've been alive, son." So this is work that at least our Black siblings have known for a while. This is the work that we do. And we struggle, and we work, and even when they throw the worst at us, we go high, right? And this is just the work that we do relentlessly, because the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice. And yeah, it feels like a major step back. And I'll confess that. I told my husband after the election, I said, "So how bad is it going to get before we start looking?" And I'd like to say that I feel very safe in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, raising a family, living in Montgomery County. I love to say that we're safe, but I was on with the commissioners about work that ICE is doing in our community to take people illegally from the jail. There is work that we can do, and yeah, your voice matters. Your story matters, and we all have one. How we tell that story loudly and publicly in these times is really, really important. because the hate is real. It horrifies me sometimes when I see the thing. I mean, PW, high school, which is where I live, had stuff in the bathrooms last week. Like, it is emboldened by what's going on in our country. And I even like to say it's even the loud cars that are racing up and down Conchi streets right now. That there is a empowering of that bravado in our country that just feels like it's their time. And to me, I think that needs some checking. And it's our story of good news that people need to hear about how radically God loves all people, made in the image of God. There is nothing unholy about what God has made. And as long as we are the people engaging in that's work that we do. And that's part of our Lutheran DNA. Like, this church doesn't have them, but a lot of Lutheran churches have red doors. Which is kind of a hallmark for us. And Kathy Herring, who's the president at Muhlenberg, our college, said, because of course the institution, take all the DEI stuff down. It's like, no, we're gonna double down on that because this is who we are. And so she said, well, if we can't use the word DEI, then we're gonna talk about Luther's radical hospitality. And we're just gonna shift lanes, shift language, and continue to focus on the thing that's always been part of us. So the red doors symbolize the sacrifice of Christ, and that everyone is worthy to come through those doors and hear the good news of how deeply God loves them. There are some who say it also means you paid off your mortgage, but for me, it's about being a sign and a symbol to the community that these doors are always open for all. And that is who we are as Lutherans. That's what Luther cared about. He was like, the Catholic Church was having a hard time getting relationships with people because they had all these rules and these processes, and they were cutting people off from grace. And Luther said, no. People need to hear God's grace. They need to come to the sacrament. They need to know about God's love. And that's who and what we are always. That's part of our DNA. And so I give thanks that I get to shepherd, 70,000 some odd of us here in the Philly metro area through the love revolution. But, we are Philadelphians too. We are the city of brotherly love. And I think it's time for us to show the world what it means to show the way. I mean, we started it all. We're going to celebrate that in another year or so, right? The 250th anniversary of this founding of this country is happening soon. Let's show them what it means to love the world. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to invite everyone to stand in body and spirit and join us in our next hymn. I feel like this is maybe an opportunity if you want to stretch your legs to stand along with our choir and, you're sitting down, Carol, but we can stand along with everyone else if you would like. This hymn is called For Everyone Born. It is a hymn that's especially dear to me. It goes, for everyone born, a place at the table. And I think that's what this event is about. This is what this church is about and what we're trying to do. And what I get to do as a part of my work here at Upper Dublin is to make sure that there's room for everyone at the table. Our kids, our youth, queer people, immigrants, Black people, brown people, everyone, that there is a space for you at the table that is so full of God's love as we learn, love, and just continue to expand this welcome. So please join us in singing this beautiful hymn. The lyrics will be up on the can see you're already seating yourselves, but you may be seated. Thank you again so much to our music director, Carol Evans, and our wonderful choirs here to lead us in just such wonderful music. It is now my pleasure to welcome Zachary Frazier, the Executive Director of Trust Fund, whose work in fostering trust and collaboration in the communities has had a profound impact, and we are so grateful to have you here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. A little louder. Good afternoon, everyone. There we go. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. I would like to start off with a Bible scripture. 1 John 3:15. Whoever hates his brother is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life remaining in him. Something really, really deep to think about, right? When you talk about God and, his mercy, things of that nature, being judgmental, being born in sin. It is an honor to stand before you today in a room filled with individuals who share a commitment to justice, equality, and unity. We are gathered here as a community across different faiths, backgrounds, and experiences. Not just to speak out against hate, but to be actively working towards a world where every person is valued, respected, and protected. Hate and bias are not just abstract ideas or political talking points. They manifest in real ways, impacting our friends, our families, and our neighbors. Whether it's racial injustice, anti-Semitism, xenophobia, or violence against the LGBTQIA+ community, these issues touch the lives of far too many people. And while the forms of hate may differ, the root cause remains the same: fear, misunderstanding, and division. But today, we reject division. We reject fear, and instead we embrace a shared responsibility to create change. At Trust Factor, our commitment to change starts with our youth. We show up not just to mentor them, but to support their families, their schools, and their communities, because we know that if we want to build a future free of hate, we must start at the next generation. Recently, I was called into a school where one of our students was struggling to understand and respect the LGBTQIA+ community, particularly a transgender teacher at that school. His actions were creating issues not only for the teacher, but also the classroom environment as a whole. When they reached out to me, I stepped in, not just to address the student's behavior, but to advocate for a broader solution. I stressed the importance of the school holding an assembly to educate the entire student body, because the truth is, hate and bias often come from a place not knowing. When young people don't understand something, they react out of confusion, discomfort, or misinformation. But when we take the time to educate, to have a real conversation, and to foster empathy, we create opportunities for growth, understanding, and ultimately change. This is the work that must continue, not just in the schools, but in our homes, our places of worship, and our workplaces. It takes all of us to break the cycle of hate. It takes all of us to call out injustice, to challenge bias, and to lead by example. So today, I ask each of you, what role will you play? How will you show up for those who need your voice, your support, and your advocacy? Because our voices matter, our actions matter, and together we can build a future that is rooted in justice, equality, and love for all people. Thank you very much.
We already have so much to be thinking about, so I just want to remind you all, if you have questions for our speakers about their organizations or what we can be doing more in our community, please don't forget to fill out a note card so we can make sure to have some really good questions to ask our wonderful speakers here today. Please join me in welcoming next Jason Lendow Goodman, the board president of Pennsylvania Youth Congress Foundation, who has been a tireless advocate for the rights of young people and LGBTQI+ individuals across the state. Thanks, Jason.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I am a community organizer and a policy wonk, so I'm usually in the back, and they don't give me microphones. So hopefully I can be half as polished as the other speakers. This is not a good time, and it hasn't been a good time for many people in our communities. Between the executive orders, the bills that are moving through Congress, the rhetoric at the top of our government and in top of our communities has been wrenching and cruel, but also has been the abandonment of some of our civic institutions and the silence of some of our public officials. They want us to be in fear. They want us to be immobilized. Those who don't want inclusion are very loud, as has been said. But what I have been focused on, and I think you're hearing from other speakers, is the amount of love that absolutely drowns that out. When we're talking about, the vicious anti-transgender school board policies that have been moving through school districts across Pennsylvania, and my organization has been involved in fighting many of them, they are dehumanizing and wretched. They've been advanced in just over 20 school districts in Pennsylvania. Yet, the story is also, we have over 130 school districts that have passed gender identity protections. So, yeah. Pennsylvania with its 500 school districts. Again, I'm a policy wonk, and I was asked to just give a few bits of policy information today, so I hope you'll bear with me. But that's a part of this process. Yes, we have to be on the same page morally, ethically, in our fire, in our spirit, but it's also about getting to work. We have to know what the policy landscape is. We have to know how to organize. We have to educate each other and show up. Be in community. That's what's going to get us through so much, and that is what it has in the past. I'm very inspired by looking at history and the civil rights movement and the suffrage movement, the anti-war movements, understanding how people came together, ordinary folks, just saying this isn't right and rising to the occasion. I'm gonna give a little bit of my personal story because it's part of the LGBTQ advocacy journey here in Montgomery County. So I was a college student years ago, and I was coming into myself as a young queer person. I'm born and raised in Lower Merion Township, so not too far from here, and I have family in Upper Dublin. And I found out that we did not have non-discrimination protections at the state level in Pennsylvania. So as a part of the LGBTQ community, I did not have equal protection in housing, employment, and public accommodations. That's a state law passed in Pennsylvania in 1955. It doesn't include sexual orientation or gender identity. But I had learned that Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, a few of our major cities did pass local laws. That's something that they could do. And so I was 19, I had no political training, didn't know what I was doing, but I just was like, okay, I know the township commissioner for my area. I went to school with his son. Maybe I can see if they'd be interested in doing something. And one thing led to another, meeting with civic associations, local political leaders, and in our largest municipality in the county, after 2 years, we got a unanimous vote, both parties, voting to adopt Montgomery County's first LGBT civil rights law. So that was exciting, 2010. And from that, though, we were in the paper and people were noticing, oh my gosh, we were the first township in the state to do this, the first in the county, maybe we can do it too. And so we started working with organizers in Abington and Haverford and Upper Dublin. I was there for a number of those meetings, so thank you to anyone in this room who was involved with that. I'll also give you a claim. You've gotten it done here. And so understanding that when we mobilize together, we can get these laws and policies passed. It's so important. It's part of the puzzle. We need to have the education, empathy to back up those laws, but without those laws, we don't have something that we can rely on that's anchored, that we know we are protecting people. And that's what we need. We need more people to mobilize. We need folks to pressure all of the things that we can, all the levers we can pull within local and state government. And there's a lot, so don't worry, this is not like a 2-hour speech. I have props. So at the Pennsylvania Youth Congress, for the past almost 15 years, we've been Pennsylvania's first and only statewide LGBTQ youth organization, and also Pennsylvania's only PA-based statewide LGBTQ advocacy organization. So we produce documents. This is our second Pennsylvania LGBTQ legislative agenda, so it includes over 40 bills, some of them championed by Representative Serrato. And it's important to look that up. It's on our website, so you can check us out there. But non-discrimination, I just want to go back to that because that's what I was asked to talk about, is such an important part of LGBTQ civil rights protections. It permeates out into everything. Public accommodations includes care at hospitals, going to a restaurant, going to get a public education. All of those things are protected under state law if they're explicitly protected. And we're seeing certain efforts at the federal level to say, oh no, that's not included, even though the Supreme Court, said sexual orientation, gender identity, at least for federal employment law, is included. We're seeing attacks on so many levels, but that's why when we have all these ordinances, Lower Merion was the 18th, I think Upper Dublin might have been the 27th, don't quote me on that. We have 75 now, after the past 15 years, 75 local laws in Pennsylvania protecting LGBTQ folks, 38% of the state's population. And that's because communities came together and said, okay, how do we do this? Because, if the state's not moving and the federal government's not moving, what can we do here? And so with those 71 municipalities, 4 counties, we've seen a lot of progress. But there's more to do. So, and that's why we have our county guides. So here's a county guide. It's also on our website. So there's a lot that you can do too. So working with the organizations that are here, working in partnership just with your friends and family to figure out what you can do, one policy and ordinance at a time. Yeah, I just want to say it's no time to give up. And we are doing so many wonderful things across the state. If we can just take stock of what institutions are holding, what healthcare is still being supported, and make sure those folks are backed up, because it's scary. People are at risk of losing funding, our hospital systems especially. How do we make sure care continues for those most vulnerable? What are we all doing in this room to talk to folks we know are connected to those organizations? So there's a lot to do, but you just gotta choose something that you're passionate about, that you can have an impact on, and get involved. It's not a time to be on the sidelines, if that's anything we've learned from history. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and look forward to the questions.
I would like to invite our band back up for the Spirit for our next musical celebration. And if you guys are up for it, I would love to invite anyone who would like to stand in body or spirit for this next musical celebration. This song is called Start a Fire, and the words will be projected on the screen. And once again, just want to say thank you guys so much for being here and being a wonderful group of music. Yeah, thank you. Come on, guys, let's stand and sing.
All right, we're going to need you all to help us get this going. So I want you all to stomp your foot, stomp your feet, put your hands together. It's going to be like this. That's it.
This world be cold, yeah. Feel
now's the moment I should confess to you all that I'm actually Baptist, and so this is a fun space for me to be in, so I'm really grateful to you guys. Thanks for my urge to stand and put a little bit of elbow grease behind singing that song. I'm grateful for that. I do also want to just say, if you have questions that you've already written down, if you could send them to the center aisle. We're gonna have our volunteers start coming through and collecting questions so we can prepare those for our Q&A session after just a couple of other speakers. Next, it is my honor to welcome Dr. Bernadine Ahankai, the founder and CEO of the Coalition for Racial Equity and Social Justice. Thank you so much for being here.
I have to lower this because I'm short. Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon still, I don't know. Yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here and to see so many of you come out this afternoon. I founded the Coalition for Justice in 2020 following the brutal murders of most of our Black men and women, in order to create a safe space to bring people together to engage in authentic conversation about racial discrimination and racism, and to encourage people to love one another. I grew up in Nigeria and West Africa, and I didn't experience anything like we're seeing in this country today. The coalition was founded on the belief that every American deserves an equal opportunity to thrive and be successful. And this happens when we love each other, when we protect each other, and when we work together for the common good. Our history is rife with prejudice against groups and individuals because of our race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, we've heard it here, and other characteristics. Even though as a nation we've come a long way, but there's still bias, hate, and racism, and unequal treatment of the other in our country. Just 3 years ago, in 2022, a study done by the Federal Bureau of Investigation reported that anti-Black or African-American hate and bias crimes for all is greater, exceeded the number of that type of crime for any other ethnicity, race, ancestry put together in our nation. For instance, right here in the United States, in Pennsylvania, anti-Black or African-American hate-related crime in 2022 was at 56%. 56%. Religion was 18%, sexual orientation was 17%. Bias-motivated crimes followed the same pattern. Against Blacks or African American, 53%. Religion, 27.5%, and sexual orientation, 12.8%. But we know also that many crimes go unreported to the police because more often than not, our police officers may not have the right training to deal with these crimes and report them. I'd like to share two personal experiences, incidents with you. When we first, my husband and I first came to the US, we lived in New York. Then we moved to Pennsylvania. Our welcome to Montgomery County was a slur written on our driveway overnight. I woke up one morning to take my two younger daughters to the bus stop, and I saw scribbled on our driveway, the N-word, "Go back to your huts, you don't belong here." I was shocked. We were living in a small development with only about 15 homes, and we were the only Black family. I called the township police, and two policemen came and dismissed it right away as childhood pranks. Childhood pranks? That's how they dealt with that. Then several years ago, we moved to Lower Gwinnett Township one evening in November after Thanksgiving. I got home from work. I had forgotten to move my pumpkins to my backyard, to my garden. And I was out, I had already changed, I was in my housewear, and I went out actually in a dressing gown. And suddenly a police car pulled into my driveway. And I stopped, and the policeman came out and said to him, "Good evening, officer. how can I help you? And he turned around and asked me, do you live here? And I said, yes, of course I live here. This is my house. As I was talking to him, a second police officer came by to my driveway. And they both asked me that they wanted to see my driver's license. So I told them I had to go back into my house and get my car key, open my car, and get it from my purse in the car, which I did. Then when they saw it, they left. And I asked them, what's the reason for all this? And they told me someone called into the precinct complaining that somebody was prowling in the neighborhood. I'm so happy to see all of you here today because it gives me hope. Because we must continue to fight hate beyond the ballot boxes, knowing that hate is an open attack on tolerance, acceptance, and people's sense of belonging. Because those two things that happened to us, along with several of my family members being profiled while driving back in Montgomery County, makes you feel that you don't belong, or they want you to feel like you don't belong, but we all do belong here. An attack on one group is an attack on all of us because it also affects the community's health. So, because we must take every or any smallest hint of hate and bias, even what appears to be a simple name calling or a slur scribbled on somebody's property like it happened to us, seriously, because in the face of hatred like that, apathy will be interpreted not by the perpetrator as acceptance, by the victim also as, this is something that everybody should be allowed. So the time is now for us to come together, and I'm happy to see you all here and fight this hate together. We, Coalition for Justice, belong to a number of organizations. We belong to the Boxman Collaborative and the Community Action Network, where we go to Harrisburg. We just had breakfast with Representative Serrato with her colleagues in February, where we advocate for changes in oppressive policies. Because we know that we can't change people unless we change some of our oppressive policies. Because many of our policies, whether I believe it or not, are couched in hate and bias, and we need to change them. So we also at Coalition for Justice, we continue to advocate and fight for changes in Montgomery County. So we invite you to join us in the fight and the journey. Please access our website at www.Coalition for Justice and register to join us in this fight. I want to leave you with this statement. Love conquers all hate, bias, and racism. When we love each other, we protect one another. Thank you very much.
Our final speaker of the day is Tracy D. Pasquale, the Director of Lutheran Advocacy Ministry in Pennsylvania, also one of our co-sponsors for today. Tracy's leadership in advocating for justice at the state level is truly inspiring, and we are so excited to hear from her today.
It is always such a joy to be back at Upper Dublin Lutheran Church. I am so impressed with the advocacy team here, so I want to stop right now and say, let's hear it for the team that put this together. They truly are, I can see building the beloved community here, and that you all are a part of it. So thank you for having me back. And it is a little bit intimidating coming at last after all of these inspiring speakers today, but hopefully you'll hear some common threads in my remarks. And yes, I wrote them down because I had such a list of instructions, like hit this, hit this, hit this, and I'm afraid if I didn't write it down, I would miss something. So yes, Lutheran Advocacy Ministry in Pennsylvania, mostly known as LAMPA, is the state public policy office of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, the ELCA. It's a partnership of the ELCA, which is church-wide. Sometimes we call it the mothership, right? Pennsylvania's 7 synods, and I'm so delighted to have 7 wonderful bishops. They're all awesome in their own ways. Thank you to Bishop Penman for being here today. It'll get back to them. And the roughly 1,200 ELCA Lutheran congregations in this state. Our job is to equip disciples to live into their baptismal call to strive for justice and peace in all the earth. Of course, this call from God to seek justice and peace, Rabbi, as you pointed out, is not ours alone. That's the beauty of this gathering today. We're reminded that we are not alone. In fact, we are given to one another for this work. Some of it will be done in the halls of power. Much will be done at tables that we must set and where we must insist on welcome. Lampa, which I should point out has a staff of 2, has worked for 46 years to connect Lutherans with their policymakers on issues from hunger and housing and poverty to environmental protection, education equity, non-discrimination, and more. And we do that in coalitions. We do that in conversation with people with lived experience of whatever issues we're trying to address, and also respecting the leadership of those communities who are going to be most affected by the policies. I want to point out that as part of this, in relationship to this day, in addition to that, as part of that legislative work, we call them buckets. There are four areas where Lutherans tend to really be organizing on the ground, and their ministries give them lots of direct experience. And so we've formed, we do all of this work, but one of those networks is titled In God's Image. And so I invite you, we have a table out there. You can sign up just to get our emails and action alerts when there's legislation that's moving and it's time for your lawmakers to hear from you. Specifically right now, you get an alert. But you could also be part of one of these networks that meets periodically, exchanges ideas about how a practice that's in service, in community building, people can share ideas across the state, but also then to get advocacy updates on how you can speak up of what is moving now policy-wise. So I invite you to sign up for that. In addition to the legislative advocacy, recently, as divisions have deepened and dehumanization drove ever more discourse in this country, we partnered with Search for Common Ground, which is one of the world's oldest, largest peace-building organizations. And it began work in Pennsylvania last year because unfortunately we were one of 4 states in this country that was considered high risk for political violence. Through that, and in addition to some other partners, we sponsored Love Anyway feasts to help people build bridges of understanding. We offered training on topics such as conflict and its roots, civil discourse, digital peace building, and more. Last summer and fall, we worked with Interfaith partners to de-escalate potential for election-related violence all across the state. The peace building continues, even while we work to establish rapid response teams in every part of the Commonwealth to stand with targeted communities. I also want to throw in here that we still have applications open for a racial justice fellowship, which awards a $1,000 scholarship. We have 3 of these this year. And yeah, a $1,000 scholarship, $1,000 for the mentor, and at least $750 for the congregation to focus on racial justice in its community. This month, acknowledging the forces of Christian nationalism, particularly white Christian nationalism at work in sowing fear and division, and the particular responsibility of white Christians to address it, we hosted Hope in a Divided World, a faithful response to Christian nationalism. Speakers included our own ELCA presiding Bishop Elizabeth Eaton, the leader of Christians Against Christian Nationalism in the United States, and the president of the International Bonhoeffer Society English Language Section. At our website, you can download recordings of that event as well as all of the peace-building training and a curriculum on Dietrich Bonhoeffer that addresses the ways that 20th century German theologian's life and teachings are being distorted to legitimate violence in our current American context. And all of these we are offering for the church, the wider church, for all people of faith, for the sake of God's love in the world. For Lutherans and many Christians, last week's Old Testament reading, last Sunday, was from Isaiah, written to a people still bearing the scars of exile. And yet, God promises to save and restore. As Isaiah reminds us on our journey in this season, the people hear that the Lord will again make a way in the wilderness. They and we are invited to return to God, to rest and feast in both body and spirit. In communion with God, they and we will find wholeness and life. When the world seems dark, and it does seem dark, and the task of justice seems impossible, our faith calls us to turn to the words of the prophets and the promises of our faithful God that remind us to live in hope, to keep our eyes, our hearts, and our hands open for the new thing that God is doing. Reference to Bishop Penman, and we didn't plan this, about God's way of doing new things when it seems like everything is falling apart. And on May 13th, our annual Day of Advocacy, we will gather in Harrisburg around this theme from Isaiah, "Behold, I am doing a new thing." We will come together from across the Commonwealth to remind ourselves of God's faithful action in the world. We will call on our lawmakers to join in this work of reconciliation, restoration, and justice on behalf of our neighbors and the world God so deeply loves. We welcome you to join us. And whether you can be there in body with us on that day, I take hope in the continued accompaniment of this ministry on the journey toward justice and peace. Thank you.
One more round of applause for all of our incredible speakers. We are now going to move to our time of Q&A, so I invite you all to find your favorite seat up here. All right, if you have any questions that you haven't gotten a chance to turn in, we still have our volunteers around that can happily gather those, but we'll start with a few we have and see what others pop up. Are you guys ready for questions or need a second to regroup over here? Troublemakers over here. All right, our first question, and any of you all are welcome to answer this. I have a mic, Chris has a mic. So obviously some of these may be more or less relevant to you, but we invite any of our speakers to share their perspectives. First question is, courage can be hard to find when you're scared. Any advice on how to find the moral courage that is needed in these times?
Buddy up. Literally find a friend. Everyone has one, at least one, but hopefully many more that feel the exact same way. It's always easier in numbers. When you're standing alone in the darkness, it's much easier to lose your way. But when you have a friend and you're holding hands and you're trying to feel your way, it's much easier together. So I say just stick together. Know that your friends are there for you and they'll be there with you.
I'll also say this is a moment for those with privilege, especially for what I have seen in marginalized communities, especially the trans community. This is not time for you to be heroic for yourself. This is time for those to step up and step out in ways, in safe ways, that have the privilege to be able to do that. And so, again, if you are from one of the underrepresented populations in this country, please do not feel it is your duty or obligation to make this world a better place. That's our job. Like, that's where we need to show up and begin to speak into those places. I tell my very white Lutheran church all the time, it is not our African descent people's job to teach us about racism. That's our job. That's our white people. It's our construct. It's our thing that we have created in this country. It's our job to dismantle that. And so, yeah, I think it's a moment for those with privilege to really come to an understanding that you have privilege first and foremost, but then begin to find ways that you can use that privilege for the betterment of those that are often on the margins of our society. That's what Jesus did. If you want to be disciples of Jesus, that's what that means. So, sorry, that's my soapbox.
Yes and yes. And once you find that courage, it's important to keep it. I mean, you take care of yourself and, you step in and step out as you need. But maintaining that courage, being persistent in that courage is so important because we show up in moments of crisis, right? Where we see people pushed into a corner and we have to help, or we are the ones pushed into the corner and we are outraged and we show up and we go to the rally on Saturday and we do this. And so many times people come out when there's a murder of a young trans person and everyone comes out, we're all outraged. We need them to show up the next day at City Council. We need them to show up the next week in Harrisburg. We have to mobilize, we have to educate, we have to do all the work that we've been talking about. But courage is not just a one-time thing. It's again and again, and it's a lifetime commitment to doing the right thing.
I don't know, maybe it's just my line of work, but I find that what people need the courage to do is to overcome the fear of maybe not having all of the details, the policy details. Maybe somebody's gonna laugh at me because I don't know which committee this bill goes to, right? Get over that fear, right? We can figure that out. And that needs to happen so that we don't have to go to the kind of courage that it takes to literally be putting your body in harm's way. So.
I'll also just say, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk, but I'm going to anyway. Fear is used to silence people and make people want to become small and to push people into corners and boxes and holes. And love is so much louder than that. And I think for me, finding the moral courage is remembering how loud love can be and how loud we can be in sharing that love and showing up for each other. So just don't let fear win out, because love is so much stronger and better and actually is the thing that wins out in the end of the day. So that's my 2 cents, in case anyone was wondering. Next question. What is the last most uplifting thing that you experienced that gave you hope?
Dealing with a youth in my mentoring group, he wasn't there for a while. He was missed a few weeks, and I'm like, wow, where is he? I'm trying to get in contact with his mother and things like that. So my partner, Miss Jessica Hill, got in contact with his mother. And I think he's about 13 or 14, and she told me he was at Belmont. I'm like, started thinking about it. I'm like, oh, well, what happened that he was in Belmont? And this kid gave me a lot of problems earlier on. hood on, and you know, we're in a church, you know, operation is in a church, and his hood's on, and he's using foul language at times, and he has this mask on so nobody sees him. And I understand some of that is fear, you know, or just discomfort. Maybe not even liking what he looks like, right? And I've noticed that he was just acting up all the time, you know. So once we found out where he was, I said, listen, because we had such a pull and push of a relationship, I said, listen, find out if I can go see this kid. I want to go see him personally on my own. And we got the information. I went up there the first time. They were like, no, we can't let you in for whatever reason. Called the mom back. The mom said, listen, you're on the list. And I wanted to surprise him. So when I got there, he didn't know it was me. And when he walked in, he had this look on his face like, wow. And I was like, yeah, I was the last person you thought you would see, right? I told on you for everything you did. I told your mom everything that you've done, right? And it was more like we were getting separated. But what happened was, a few days later, we had a great conversation. It was heartfelt. I gave him a huge hug. And Miss Jessica had called me and said, hey, listen, his mother just texted me and said, you know, her son, that put a whole different light on his relationship with him and I, where it made him like, oh, I didn't know Mr. Zach cared that much. And it changed the dynamics. When I seen this kid get out of Belmont and come to our organization back that Wednesday, literally, he hugged me like I almost saved his life. And I was just like, nah, I just was doing what I was supposed to do. And that changed the whole dynamics of our relationship. So I understood that showing up means a lot. It means a lot.
Hi. Coalition for Justice has a youth program, a social justice education program that we're providing for students in our school districts from middle school to high school. And what gives me hope is seeing those students really engaged. One of my teachers is sitting in the audience there, engaged in a discussion about some of the social issues that they experience. I don't want to discourage any one of us older folks. We have to keep fighting this injustice. But I believe that our youth, given the right education and the skills, will be the one to change this world for us. They will do it. And I've seen that in the school with the students that we're working with, and that really gives me hope every day.
So a bit ago, I was contacted from Weaver's Way in Ambler. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar. And they had a community refrigerator. And unfortunately, due to laws, they were going to have to get rid of their community fridge. That was a lifeline to so many in the community. And so I helped pull some of the laws. I worked with the county. And then I kind of just didn't hear anything more about it until recently. And just yesterday, they had worked with one of the local churches, and we did a ribbon cutting. And they opened the community fridge again yesterday as a lifeline. It's amazing when we feel like hope is fading fast, just how many people in the community step up. And that gives me hope. Every day, you know, I hear horror story after horror story. People call me when they're most desperate and hurting. And it's in moments like that that I kind of get my renewed sense of hope at the end of the week, being like, wow, these people are stepping up in ways that I didn't know were possible. And it might not seem like a huge thing for many, but just going and realizing it was already full of food, both the fridge, the freezer, and the pantry next to it. It's accessible to anyone. There's no questions. There's no sense of indignity when you go to this fridge. That gave me hope yesterday, at least. So.
I'm back to the advocacy piece because the past 2 weeks, we've been, normally I just work on state level policy, right? But everything at the state level is now watching this tidal wave come at us from DC. And so we had more than 70 Lutherans across the state sign up to say, yes, we'll be part of these virtual lobby days with our members of Congress. And so we prepped them like, this is what's happening with the reconciliation. And here are the main things that we're concerned about, that are affecting communities who are experiencing poverty and marginalization. And just to watch the emails flying, because we organized them according to congressional districts. Some of these people had never met one another before. Many of them had never done any advocacy before, and they were doing their local research. So if this program gets cut, and they were calling their local officials to find out, what's it mean for our school district? What does it mean for school meals? What does it mean at the county level? You know, is this funding for seniors? Is this funding for children with disabilities? And they were doing the work, and I was seeing the emails fly around, and then to listen to them tell these stories in their meetings with their lawmakers, and then like, we can do this. And so if I'm seeing people who are in their 80s finally like being convinced that they can do this and they don't have to do it alone, and now they're going to go find 5 more people to do it. So that gave me hope this week, and I hope it gives you hope too.
I could say something. Okay. I'm like, yeah, maybe we need some more uplifting stories today. So I was just thinking, yeah, it was a few weeks ago, Pennsylvania Youth Congress, we formed this group called Parent Warriors. It's a coalition of parents of trans and gender expansive young Pennsylvanians all across the state. We formed in 2017 after some regulations were rolled back, and we've had to activate them, get to Harrisburg on several occasions, collect stories. It's been important, but we haven't really met, recently. When everything started happening this year, several of them came to me about, just over a month ago and said, we need to organize. And I was like, okay, absolutely, let's reactivate this. And we put out a call, and then it went out. And like 3 weeks ago, we had a Zoom with almost 200 parents all across the Commonwealth, ready to fight. And we needed them. Last week, there was an anti-trans youth sports bill in the Senate Education Committee. 5th time they're working it through the committee. And we had filled up the entire front row and part of the second row with parents from Pittsburgh who just did a J trip to get there at 8:30 in the morning. Seeing these parents really activate themselves, because it's the very lives of their children, is absolutely inspiring and uplifting, and I look forward to continue to work with them.
Tracy knew you had something good to share, so thanks, Jason, for, I know, she passed the microphone to you. She's like, Jason's got something to share. I love it. Next question. Can you share with us any bills that have passed in the House and are held in the Senate, and how we can help move these forward? Couple of minutes.
So realistically, I'm not sure how civically minded everyone in the room is, but every 2 years, every single bill disappears. So anything we got across the finish line in 2023, 2024 disappeared in 2025. That means it starts all over from scratch. Memos are recirculated, looking for co-sponsors, getting assigned to a committee, having to make it out of a committee, get onto the floor, have amendments, move from either the House or the Senate to the other side of the chamber, where it goes through the same exact process all over again of being assigned to a committee. It is not an easy task. So last year we moved HB 300, which would enshrine, LGBTQ plus dignity, I would say, into housing and workforce, and making sure that you couldn't be discriminated against based on your sexual identity or gender expression. That died in the Senate. We also moved the Crown Act, making sure that you could not be judged or discriminated against based on your hairstyle. That died in the Senate. We moved several bills. We actually had an anti-hate package that included training for people who had committed biased crimes. We had training for officers. We had a lot of different bills. It was an entire package. Rep. Frankel from out in Pittsburgh area championed those bills in coordination with Rep. Napoleon Nelson. They all died in the Senate. We have the anti-LGBTQ plus panic defense that is being championed by Representative Sanchez right here in Upper Dublin. That has not made it across. There are so many pieces of legislation that we have worked through gotten through the House, and they've just died in the Senate. So I will say, if you have friends or family in any Senate district that remains Republican held, I don't care if they're the nicest man or woman that you've ever met in your life, they're keeping their leadership in power, and they're making sure that these anti-hate bills do not cross the finish line and get signed into law. So please encourage friend, family, and neighbors, if they live in a district that is still held by a Republican senator, they need to advocate for anti-hate bills.
Just to add to that, thank you. This is the casualty of a divided government that does not want to work with each other. And not to say that there was ever a rosy time where everyone got along no matter what party, because that's what the politics are in this country. But it used to be a little bit better. We actually advanced hate crimes legislation passed by a Republican House, Republican Senate, signed by a Republican governor in 2002. It was struck down due to a technicality about how it was passed in 2008. But just to think that we are so frozen and gridlocked, like in Congress, right here in Pennsylvania, and sharing your stories, trying to take out, let's not make this a Republican, a Democrat, a partisan issue. How do we talk about this as a human issue? And so that's what my role has been the past 15 years as an advocate in Harrisburg, is trying to educate, provide empathy, even when, in those rooms it's not going to be very friendly. We have to continue trying. There's other tactics to change the composition of the legislature, which are not in my lane, but whoever's there, at least we still got to try and show up to take the divisiveness out of just basic human dignity. Those are what so many of these bills are that are stalled, just for spite, because this party did that and that party did this one, and we're not going to touch it. And enough already. Let's get to work.
I want to thank the representative for underscoring something that I'm telling Lutherans all the time. Like, who are your friends in other parts of the state? You have this beautiful community here, and you talk to your own awesome lawmakers who are mostly totally embracing what you support. Think of your friends who can be trusted messengers, even if you don't agree on everything. Who can you trust to deliver this message of care and concern for your neighbor who's in another district? Start those lists now and keep them handy, because we need to have some of this stuff on speed dial. We're in it for the long haul, but there's a lot of nasty that's moving quickly. So.
With the executive order to abolish the U.S. Department of Education, this is going to be a light question, and the closure of the Office for Civil Rights, I am concerned about protecting the rights for neurodiverse and disabled students. What can be done in Pennsylvania to protect those rights?
Education policy. Okay, we do have statewide non-discrimination protection. So that's why on disability, when the federal government is failing, that's why other levels of government are so important. So our state, Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission, will take those cases based on disability, and they will process them. So whether it's public school or dealing with a local, public accommodation, there are ways to alleviate that. And because you passed a local non-discrimination ordinance that included a bunch of classes, including disability, you have protections right here. So you can go right down. Is someone here from the Upper Dublin Human Relations Commission? Yes. Raise your hands if you're here.
I think they're out.
Okay, they're out there. They're committed to the table. So yes, they're right here in your community, and they can help you. So what was the question? Yeah, the Office of Civil Rights. Yeah, our friends are just, they're not there right now, but we have other ways to address those, and it's just better to not try and engage with the federal government, the last 3 people that are the Department of Education right now, because they're probably not our friends.
So now I get to be the bearer of bad news. The reality is, when the funding gets cut from the federal government, there is no way Pennsylvania can make up the difference. We have ordinances in place. We're going to be fighting like heck. We are going to put forth lawsuits. We are going to do everything in our power. But I sat in an appropriations meeting last week with the entirety of the Southeast Pennsylvania House delegation to talk about our budget priorities. And we do this every year, and we come forth, and I said, early childhood education is a huge priority for me, and reimbursement rates for home health aides is a huge priority for me, and education equality, and we have a list, and we put this together, and we're very thorough, and we whittle it down to the things, there's a billion things I care about, but if I can only get 10 of them this time, what are those top 10? And we're about 20 minutes into this conversation, and I stopped my appropriation chair, and I said, realistically, why are we having this meeting? I said, what are we actually going to do? We are constitutionally obligated to create a budget for Pennsylvania in the month of June. Now, this will be my third year, but we haven't seen it done before the middle of July. But either way, we're trying to get closer to that goal. However, the federal government isn't going to tell us what monies are actually coming to Pennsylvania until September. If I tell you that approximately 50% of all funding in Pennsylvania came from the federal government in our budget last year, do you think we have that kind of money lying around? There's no tax that we can put on our people to make up the difference. So right now, we are at a point where we are going to have to prioritize in ways that keep people alive. And I don't want to be the dark voice in this room, but I need everyone to understand that this fight is going to be hard. It is not going to be easy. I'm going to have to give up things and priorities that I really, truly care about just to try and keep people alive through the next few years, because that's what we're looking at if we lose billions, not millions, billions of dollars in federal funding. About 2/3 of all Pennsylvania seniors in nursing facilities are on Medicaid. What do you think happens when they talk about these trillion-dollar cuts to Medicaid? These are real things that we are trying to navigate every day, but we don't have billions and billions of dollars lying around. So I need each of you to advocate for the things that you care about, but also understand there is no magic wand at your state and local level right now. We're gonna fight until we bleed, but you have to hang with us, and you have to do your part to keep everyone you love and care about alive for the next few years until we can find some resolution and some solutions to these issues, because that's what we're truly facing. Sorry.
I wanted to let you all know that on May 1st, I know it seems like it's too far away, Hodash, which is one of the organizers here, and Power Interfaith, and my organization, Coalition for Justice, we are organizing education funding forum on May 1st. So if you don't have, we'll try to make sure we get the information out. I think Representative Serrata, you're one of the legislators going to be there on that day, and Sanchez and Liz Handbridge. We need everybody to come out and raise their voices about this, because we can't afford not to educate our children. They are the future of our nation. We need to fund the education adequately and justly. So please come out on May 1st for that forum and let their voices be heard. There's power in numbers, so the more we are out there agitating for equal education funding. Our Supreme Court had declared that education funding has been unconstitutional and immoral, and our legislators, I'm sorry, need to find money to educate our children properly. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a hard question because I have a neurodivergent kid, and we've been struggling mightily to get him assessed and get him to services. And we finally got approved for ABA therapy at 35 hours, praise God, that we're putting in place, but I'm doing the like, oh dear God, and now it all goes away. He's adopted, so he's also on Medicare, and like, I see those CHOP bills for his psychiatric care at $70,000 a year. I know it costs a lot, but he is a special kid and needs that kind of care, so it's a personal issue for me. But I want to tell the story of hope and how I feel that this is the call of the church, right? I'll remind you, as a wannabe historian, the deep history of churches in America. St. Mark's, the congregation that I served in Conshohocken, actually started as a school for the factory kids. So this was back in the, right at the turn of the century, so 1889, they established a school. It was actually St. Peter's Lafayette Hill, longingly looking over the hill at the town that the Lutherans forgot. That's how they record it in the history. But they started a school. This is in the days before public education. So thanks be to God, we live in a democracy where we can say that a right to an education might be a thing. We, at least as a church, can say it's a faithful thing. And so I give thanks for the many, many, and right now they're largely early childhood centers, right? How many? I mean, you guys have one here. I mean, the list is a mile long, but like maybe they need to be bigger centers. And as you know, they're not able to do it at a state level or a federal level anymore. I think that's an opportunity for us as the faithful to show up and show out. We did this at St. Mark's while I was pastoring there. I stood around and I was like, why do we have all these special education certified people here? And so one of the things that we did was Conchi Elementary is actually, what is it, a Title IX school because of the affordable housing complexes in Conshohocken. So unlike the rest of the school district, it gets special services and has a high degree. So we started a tutoring center at the library. All staffed essentially by St. Mark's folks. Did we call it religious? No, because then the principal couldn't advertise it. But we could say that there was a tutoring center open, and then word got out, and we had more volunteers from the community than it was St. Mark's people. But these were kids whose primary language at home was not English, and so they literally couldn't read the homework. So, you know, you send kids home, trust me, my kid needs all the help in the world to get homework done. Adding a second language on top of that just makes it even harder. And so find those ways to fill in the cracks when things start to fall apart, right? And I think that should be our call. Like, this is really what it means to get outside the box of the way we've always done it. Look at that deeper history of what Christians have done over time and recognize that that's a more full story of taking care of people's whole lives. So yeah, it may get bad. I'm fearful of how bad it gets, but yeah, the thing that gives me hope is a lot of it is state funding when it comes to education. And I know that Pennsylvania cares deeply about education. And we'll do what we can as citizens of the Commonwealth to figure out how we educate our kids, because that's part of their end game. Their end game is make them dumb. And I say, let's make them smart and give them the tools that they need to thrive. So.
Thank you for bringing up the Lutheran involvement in education. So Martin Luther actually was an advocate of free schools for all children. Well, yes. And, you know, so LAMPA, Lutherans in Pennsylvania, were a big part of that basic education funding coalition, that huge coalition for fair funding for education and equitable funding for education in Pennsylvania, and proponents of public schools for all children. And I just want to connect some dots here. I made a reference to white Christian nationalism, and I will say it has been a part of the Christian nationalist agenda for years to undermine public education in this country. And for those of us who have a particular responsibility to speak into that space, I just want to remind us of that. So, and sorry, I'm like, oh, making you jump into town again. I believe we are on the same page on this, that to encourage people to be in touch with their state lawmakers and to ask them, what does this federal plan mean for Pennsylvania's budget? And are you okay with that? Either reject it or own it in a very public way. And the same with your local officials, right? Because they're going to sit back, and this is a local election year. I'm not campaigning for anybody, can't do that, that's not my job. I'm just naming a thing. Local officials up for election At every level, what do these changes in federal policies and funding mean for those programs? And are they okay with ending, with throwing your grandparents out on the street, with cutting off nutrition for children, for cutting off special education services and extra services for children who are neurodiverse? You name it. Now is the time. Now is the time to ask them, candidates and office holders alike, do you reject this or are you going to own it? So, and then help them dial their member of Congress. And you can stand there while they do it. So.
What can interfaith communities do to fight anti-Semitism?
Fighting anti-Semitism is a task that I don't think happens in the particulars of any given moment. Of course, there are moments when we do have particulars to fight against. When there's anti-Semitic graffiti, having other communities show up to help us clean it can be a really big deal, right? Because there's someone else there. I note that when the question about where do we find moral courage came up, the first answer was find a buddy. Do it together. It helps your moral courage to do it together. One of the answers was also, this is the work of people that hold privilege. People that hold privilege need to be the ones stepping forward. And while that's true, what I found in Jewish communities is that most often, the folks who come together first, synagogues, mosques, black churches, the three that are targeted most often, are often the ones that come together first. Because we know what it's like. We know that experience. We know why there's security outside. We know what the fear is. The fear we don't like to talk about too much. Knowing who is there next to you is really powerful. Having someone unexpected show up to help is powerful. One of the best ways to fight anti-Semitism is to already be in community together. It's to host events like this. It's to be together and get to know each other. It's to do things together. It's to do things that may not strike you as that powerful together. It's to have each other's phone numbers in our phones so that when you read it that something happened, you call and say, how you doing? Is there anything I can do? Can I help organize my congregation to come support yours? Some of the most effective things we can do to fight anti-Semitism are relational things. We can show up for each other and not just show up, on the day, God forbid, that something terrible happens, but show up to celebrate together when something good happens. Show up to plan together for something that may seem tiny. Maybe we're literally planting a tree together. Maybe we're doing some cleanup in our neighborhood, just cleaning up trash together. Something that benefits all of us where we get to say, hi, how you doing? We get to know each other. We recognize each other when we come in the room. This is my second time here. I'm very grateful to have been invited back, and just that sense of coming in and knowing more people and recognizing people, having people recognize me, is a big change, isn't it? I can feel that. And you can all feel that. That will help us when anti-Semitism happens in our community, and it does, a little more often than is comfortable. When anti-Semitism happens in our community, it will help us when we know who each other are. We know who to call. Paul Kivel, in his book, Uprooting Racism, says there are two things everyone should ask themselves. One is, what do I stand for? It's really important to say that we stand against anti-Semitism, the same way it's important for us to say we stand against racism and we stand against homophobia. That's what we stand for. The second question is maybe even more important, which is, who do I stand with? Which is not just theoretical, it's looking around us and saying, who am I shoulder to shoulder with? Who's here with me? Who do I make common cause with? And who do I show up to help when they ask? I think this is the way we fight. Happy to talk in more specifics if you'd like.
That concludes our Q&A session. I just wanted to say thank you so much once again to our incredible panel of speakers and folks here today. I just have a few closing remarks and reminders. I wanted to say also a huge thank you to Asher Jacob. He's up here in the balcony. He's been running all of our tech, and I just want to say thank you, Asher, for being here and helping out. Second, I just have to say a huge thank you to Chris Chanchita and Fred Loomis and our advocacy and DEI teams for making this event happen. You guys are incredible leaders in this church and in this community, and we're so grateful to you both for being here. Thank you. Another special thanks to our co-sponsors, Lampa and Congregation Or Hadash, for partnering with us in this important work and helping us bring this event to life. Thank you so much. And lastly, I just want to thank you all for showing up and being here and caring. We have a lot of work to do, and many hands makes light work. So I just want you all to feel inspired and empowered to leave this room today knowing better so we can do better. So thank you all so much for taking the time to be here. There are tables to still learn more about these incredible community organizations. And we also have food and coffee left and drinks, so please make sure to stop by refreshments and grab a snack on your way out today. But thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all so much for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your day.